we have some surprise guests here now. We are joined by Platinum Games.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. I can't even tell if the camera's on us right now.
It
Are we
is.
officially introduced?
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking about Transformers Devastation, correct?
Yeah, we are.
What is Transformers Devastation?
So Transformers Devastation is a third-person action brawler by Platinum Games.
Great.
And I'm from Robert Conke from Activision, producer on the title. So we're working with Platinum Games on this one, and as you can see, it's taking a bit of a different approach from previous Transformers games. Platinum looked at it and they really wanted to go with a kind of a classic feel. And what they ended up doing was taking inspiration from the IDW comics. They took inspiration from the Generations toy line, as well as, of course, the original TV show, and kind of put it all together and created a modern take on the classic Transformers. And in a way, they wanted to really pay homage to the rich history of the brand. So that's kind of how we ended up where we did. So, yeah. Oh.
Sorry, we were just trying to get our start menu off the screen, and we finally did it. This is live stream. It's a whole different kind of interview. So what are we seeing in the game? What are we doing? What are we?
So you can play as 5 different Autobots, including, of course, Optimus Prime. There'll also be Bumblebee, Sideswipe, Wheeljack, and Grimlock. And the basic idea is when you get into the game, you'll see that the Decepticons have showed up in the city and is actually being violently and forcibly turned into a version of Cybertron. And so that's a problem.
Like the boosters we see attached to the skyscrapers.
Yep, that's part of that.
Okay.
And you'll also see like some of the buildings are starting to turn Cybertron-like in nature.
Very cool.
And so neither the Autobots don't really know what's going on yet, and they're just kind of here to investigate. Is kind of what's happening. And yeah, as you can see, there's some signature Platinum action happening here.
Just transforming mid-combo is the coolest thing.
That's one of the really big things that we're super excited about. So, Platinum's really done some interesting things with the combat, and transformation is really huge in a way that never has been before. So you'll see him doing combos, and he'll hit at the end of a combo, you'll get a little flash. It'll flash blue, and if you press the transform button right then, you'll transform and ram them, for example, or there's a bunch of different moves you do, but you can use that to chain combos. And you can do it over and over again if you're really good, and create really awesome, flashy, and powerful combos. So that's one of the big things. There's a few other ways it's being used as well, and we can go into that too.
Yeah, so is it mostly just for traversal otherwise, to go through the environment faster?
There's probably, I would say there's 4 key ways that it's being used. So one is traversal. The other was the way I just described. Another way is you use the transformation thing as a way to dodge. So you can, as you transform, you're actually avoiding attacks as well. And then the last one is there's this way to do a special combo, which we're calling a rush attack, where if you go into vehicle mode and then you go full speed, you'll see flames come out of the car. Mm-hmm. And at that point, you can do an extremely powerful combo that does tons of hits and tons of damage and can break enemy shields and all kinds of stuff like that. So those are really the key ways it's being used in the game.
What if I'm Grimlock? I'm just turning into a T-Rex mid-combo.
Yep, and we haven't shown that yet, but it's really cool, and we'll stay tuned for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So yeah, Grimlock is very unique.
What are you all excited about for doing this? This is obviously a very unusual Transformers game from what we've seen Activision publish, for the last 5 years. So it's a whole different aspect of it.
Sure.
What excites you about doing this?
So let me leave that to the Platinum guys.
Sure, absolutely.
So by the way, this is Kenji Saito. He is the director on the game.
Great.
He's also very well known for being the director on Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Right.
And then we have Atsushi Kuroka here, who is the producer on the game, and he's worked on lots of titles, including Wonderful 101. As well as Legend of Korra, and he's the producer on the project this time too. So, yeah, let me give that question to those guys.
Sure.
So, トランスフォーマーズ、今回トランスフォーマーズで、みんなが経験して楽しむところはこれがプレイヤーがこれを見て楽しみにするところはどんなところでしょうか？
そうですね。やっぱり映像を見ていただいて分かるようにトランスフォームを、攻撃の起点として、いつでもトランスフォームをして、コンボに組み込んでいけるというところが、やっぱり一番ゲームとしては楽しいところかなと思います。
あ、それは先ほど紹介し
ああ、
ました。
そうなんですね。
はい。But それも言いますね。それがまず最初の点として。So so he said, as we had just discussed, the whole thing about the transformation thing is one of the key things, and then he's got more about like the way that transformation is used in such a unique way.
Yeah.
He's really excited about that.
はい。まああとはやっぱりいろんなキャラクターが出てくるところ、まあオートボットだけではなく、まあその敵のデセプティコン側のまあメガトロンであったり、スタースクリームであったり、まあいろんな敵が登場するので、まあそのキャラクターの魅力がやっぱいっぱい表現できていると思います。
I got Decepticon and Starscream.
Yep, totally. Yeah. So so the other thing that he's really excited about is just the cast of characters that we have in the game. And you know, Transformers has some really awesome characters, and he feels that we're really bringing out the fun and cool aspects of those characters.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of key players that everybody's known and loved since they were kids, such as Megatron, Starscream, Soundwave, of course.
Great.
And of course all the Autobots, and there's a lot more where that came from. You can see the Constructicons in that footage as well. So yeah, that's another thing. Just bringing out the appeal of those characters, as we've loved them for a long time, is one of the things they're really excited about. So.
Yeah, and I feel like we as fans too want these versions of the characters, and that's why it's a really exciting thing to see them in the game. You know,
Absolutely.
that's why it's like, whoa, this is what's being made.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Totally, yeah. No, it's kind of a trip. You can hear, and so speaking of which, we actually got the original, or a lot of the original voice cast from the TV show. So we've got, of course, Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. We also have Frank Welker reprising his roles both in Megatron and Soundwave.
Yes.
And we've got Dan Gelvazan as Bumblebee, which is also a lot of fun. So we've got his voice from the original show. In the recent movies, he wasn't really talking as much. He wasn't talking at all. But in the game, he's talking. So.
Absolutely. Are there things like parries? Are there things like where this combat system gets nuts, where it's actually like very complicated and cool?
Oh yeah. Sure. So as you would expect of a Platinum Games game,
yeah.
And if you want to know about the details, these guys can go into it big time.
Absolutely. Let's go into details.
Yeah, sure. So
Game Trailers Live. Let's do it.
All
Let's
right.
go into the details of the combat system.
Sure.
How do we parry? What's like crazy about it?
So I can tell you the overview stuff, and then if you want to get more in detail, you can always ask either of these guys too. So
sure.
In general, so there's a few defensive mechanics. One is parrying. And you basically do it by pressing the stick in the direction of an enemy's attack.
Sure.
And it'll knock their attack away, and then you can counter them and perform a full combo.
Yeah.
Enemies will also do it to you. The other way is you can dodge, and you can when you dodge, if you do it just before an enemy hits you, you enter what we're calling a focus state, and you'll slow down time and be able to do a lot more damage very quickly.
And don't I transform to dodge?
You do. So the interesting thing is if you press, if you're on PlayStation, it's R1. If you're on Xbox, it's RB. But if you press that button quickly, it'll just make you kind of do like a half transform, and you'll dodge. If you hold it, it'll make you do a full transform, and so you'll dodge and transform.
Yeah.
So there's like ways you can use that because there's different moves you can do.
If I half transform?
Yeah. Well, so what happens if you half transform? You'll be you go in motion, and basically while you're in the middle of the motion, you have to make the decision: do I keep holding the button?
Yeah.
Or do I just stay in robot form? So if you hold the button, you'll end that dodge as a vehicle.
Yeah.
If you don't hold the button and you just tap it, you'll stay as a robot.
And then I can keep attacking and keep my combo going.
Yep, and you can also attack as a vehicle too. If you press the attack button as a vehicle, you can dodge as a vehicle, you can shoot as a vehicle. If you press the attack button, it'll make you instantly transform back into a robot, and then you can just do your fighting stuff. So there's also attacks that happen as vehicle. There's a lot going on.
Very cool.
So, yeah, but that's like a quick summary of some of the key mechanics.
I know we're short on time. I just need to know what you want to communicate about the game. What you want people to be most excited about for a Transformers game.
Sure.
From Platinum.
Sure.
This is unreal. Like, what do you want to communicate to everybody at home? Like, what we should be excited for.
Okay. じゃあ今回は黒岡さんでもファンに伝えたいこと、
そうですね、
このゲームについて
はい、
楽しんでほしい伝えたいことを。
そうですね。
一言
もう大体話してもらってるんですけど、今回見た目がそういった昔の懐かしいビジュアルを再現してるんで、そういったところでは ファンの方に楽しんでもらえると思うんですよ。でまたこういう古いアニメーションを知らない若い世代にも、きっと楽しんでもらえる内容になっていると思ってます。
So he's saying, one thing that's so for all the old school fans of Transformers, he's hoping that they'll really enjoy what they've done with the world and the characters, just the whole feeling of the universe that they've created, and then also for younger fans that may not have necessarily experienced the Transformers the way maybe all of us did when we were younger. He's hoping that it'll be able to appeal to them as well, and kind of turn a new leaf for them as well in terms of introducing them to what the older generations might really love. So
the good version of Transformers, right? Like this is how it should be, correct? Like
I'm not gonna make any comment about that.
Okay, I know you have to go. You all have to go to E3 quickly. I'm sorry that I kept this so short, but thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
Happy E3, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm really looking forward to this game.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right.
Let's go back up to the desk. What do you guys think of this Transformers game?
So I'm crazy excited about that. Personally, I want to play it. I kind of want to rub it on my body.
Yeah.
And it makes me excited. It does in a weird, provocative way. I like it just seeing the art style of it. Mm-hmm. One thing I would love to know is who their personal favorite Transformers are.
Oh yeah.
That's one of those things where when somebody works on a game like that with iconic characters, I just like to know who they personally relate to most. It's one of those things where it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So
yeah, I guess my biggest questions right now are story related, like what this is actually going to look like, if it's going to be a lot similar to anything we saw on the TV show.
I guess you can actually ask them these questions yourselves. They can hang out a little longer.
Yes! We got 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So you have some questions up there for us?
Yeah. Well, I would like to know, like they're working with iconic characters, right? And there's a lot of pressure attached to that. So what I want to know is who their personal favorite characters are, because I feel that you can learn a lot about a person by what character they associate with. So that's what I'd like to know.
Sure. じゃあ一番好きなトランスフォーマーズのキャラは誰でしょうか。やっぱりその返答によって、どんな人だかがちょっと分かる気がするので教えてください。
まあ僕はもう絶対メガトロン様なんですけど、トランスフォーマーコンボイたちに何度やられても立ち向かうところと、その溢れ出る計画性、あとは部下に何度裏切られてもその一言で許してしまう、寛大さ、もうメガトロン様最高。
はい。So he loves Megatron. He loves the way that he always is going against the Autobots just without any kind of hesitation. The fact that he comes up with so many plans, like all the time he's just coming up with something crazy and new. The way that he also is somehow generous, because he'll forgive all of his Decepticons that tend to always fail him, like in a single word. And basically he's just a badass. So Megatron all the way.
Cool.
So yeah.
僕はスタースクリーム。彼はかっこいいとかそういうことじゃなくて、よくメガトロンに怒られるんですね。失敗とかしたりして、で僕も会社でよく怒られるんで、彼の気持ちがすごくわかります。He's a lovely guy.
The irony that they're both Decepticons is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. But yeah, so as you guys heard, Starscream. But his main reason is, not necessarily, well, I mean, he's also cool, but not necessarily just because of how cool he is, but it's also, he feels like his relationship with Megatron is really interesting and realistic. There's like some real humanism there, because he can see like Megatron's his boss. He's always getting like yelled at by Megatron, but he has his own thing going on. So he feels like an actual company. And he said, sometimes when if he gets in trouble, he makes him think of Starscream. So
just kind of looks up.
Chad has a couple questions. They're wondering what the music direction is like, if it will kind of emulate classic Transformers music, or if you could talk about that, as well as just what we could expect at all, if you can talk about it now from the story.
Sure.
And where it kind of fits in the Transformers timeline.
Sure. Let's start with music. じゃあ音楽の方どうなってますっていう質問です。
そうですね、音楽の方はまあ基本的に社内で全部作ってはいるんですけど、もう今回は、ちょっとですね、映画のトランスフォーマーの映画の方にちょっとインスピレーションを受けてちょっとロック調になってます。かなりかっこいい。
はい、はい、どっちの映画ですって？
86。
はい。So the music is definitely rock oriented. It's the majority of it, or actually, it's made by their in-house composer. 他にやってたゲームがどれでしたっけ？そう音楽を作ってる PG さんの。
今回が初です。
今回が初。はい。なるほどです。So but yeah, so they've made this. Do we have any volume on this? I don't think we have. We don't have the music in the B-roll.
Right.
Otherwise, we'd totally play it for you. But it's when you hear it, it sounds very appropriate to what you're looking at. We'll put it that way. There's a lot of double kick drums, very rock oriented. It's got a classic yet modern feel.
So Little Revengeance still in there.
まあリベンジャンスに近い感
そう
覚ですか？
ですね。作ってる方は割とリベンジャンス好きな感じではあったので、それっぽい感じにも聞こえる可能性はあります。
So yeah, it might sound.
してるんでしょ。
いや、指示はしてない。
He's saying he didn't tell them to make it that way, but it does have stylistically,
Yeah.
it definitely has some similarities
Just a little-
to
yeah,
what you
yeah.
heard in Revengeance. So that might be a good way to describe it.
まあけど今回は割とボーカルが入らないところがあるので、ギターでかなりかっこいいフレーズを入れてもらってるところが大きいですね。
So this time there's not vocals in it, and they kind of use guitar licks as a replacement for that.
Absolutely.
So you hear that, but some of the inspiration also came from the original Transformers movie in 1986.
Oh
So-
yeah, with Galvatron.
Yeah, oh,
Optimus
yeah.
dying.
So he said
And
they
Hot
looked at a lot of
Rod,
places. Yeah. So they looked at a lot of places for inspiration, and that was one of them too. So pretty excited about it. And then we had one more question. The story.
Yeah, just anything story related you can talk about.
Sure. So I can talk to that one for sure. So the story was written by Andy Schmidt. He's known for being a writer on the IDW comic series. He's also worked with us on several different games, including War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, and Rise of the Darkspark. And so he was the main author, and then we worked very directly with both Platinum Games and with Hasbro in order to make sure we were, and in order to get like one cohesive story. And I gave the summary earlier in that the Earth is being transformed into Cybertron forcibly, and there's a little bit more than that. It seems that there's some kind of there's an underground ancient ship that exists, and it seems to be the cause of it, but it seems to not have come from either the Decepticons or the Autobots, and so they need to figure out what it is. The Decepticons knew about it earlier, and they got there first. Is kind of the situation. I don't want to spoil any more than that.
Absolutely, yeah,
But that's
that's
kind of the overall concept. So it's pretty exciting.
Before we wrap, I actually have one culture question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm curious, as somebody who's not super familiar with Japanese culture, I've been there a couple times. It's fascinating to me. How, Transformers are a big deal to like North American, specifically, U.S. culture. Like, how big of a deal is Transformers in Japanese culture?
Sure. Great question. アメリカではトランスフォーマーズかなり大きいじゃないですか。
はい。
で日本の方もそういう感じでしょうか。
そうですね。日本の方もかなり昔から放送されているものなのでファンも多いです。開発してるスタッフでもかなり好きなスタッフもいるんで、まあもう開発楽しいって言ってもよだれ垂らしながらうえーって作ってましたよ。
So so the show actually played in Japan as well. So there's tons of fans in Japan from back in the day as well. They had all the toys. And so he said, there's a lot of people at their studio who were major fans, and they were, I don't know how to translate that, but they were drooling to work on the game, if that makes sense. That's what he said.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Do they get all the shitty movies that come out too now?
最近の映画も見られてますか？
僕はもう全部見てます。
Yeah, they get all the movies. I won't comment on the quality.
Sorry about that.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a question that's been in the chat quite a bit is why you made the decision to go with kind of more of an 80s aesthetic in terms of this game as opposed to like the way that's War for Cybertron has looked in previous games.
Sure. じゃあ80年代っぽいっていうか、そのクラシックな見た目にした理由は教えていただけませんか？
そうですね。アクティビジョンさんの方からちょっとセルルっ クで、まあ、セルの見た目でちょっとやってくださいというオーダーを受けたんですが、もうそのオーダーを受けた時点で、まあ、僕がどうせやるならもうこのクラシックな、トランスフォーマーじゃないとダメだっていうところで、この見た目になっています。
So, originally, so Activision, we brought it to them and said, hey, what can you guys do with cell shaded stuff? And also, we think you guys would really kick some ass on Transformers game. What do you think? And so they thought about it and they were like, if we're gonna do that, it's gotta be this. You know what I mean? And so they really wanted to recreate that classic look and feel, just because it's what they love. They've loved forever. And they ended up trying it out and it looked really good. We showed it to everybody. Everybody loved it. So it was just one of those things where we're like, how can we not go with this? It's so awesome. So that's how we ended up where we are. So
Very cool. We're officially over time now, so
Okay.
thank you again for the bonus 5 minutes. We
Absolutely.
really appreciate it. And have a great E3.
you too. Thanks so
Great.
much.
Yeah,
Cool.
thanks for coming.
Oh.
I said before, I want that.